Hi, I'm Matt Finney.
I'm Nick Palmisano.
And I'm not Nick Palmisano.
And this is the Bad News Network.
Hey guys, it's Nick. I'm here for just one quick moment to open up this show. For the last week, I've basically spent every day for about 9 to 12 hours at Duke Hospital. I don't share information about my personal life very much, but my wife has had a pretty major surgery. It was a 9-hour surgery this past Tuesday. And the only reason I'm talking about it is I want to bring up just a couple of things. The first thing is that science is awesome. I basically have a life view that, we need to take all the wicked smart people, push them up to the top, give them the resources they need so they can go and create things that the rest of us can't even fathom. And so, as early as 5 years ago, to correct this issue my wife had, which is called double nutcracker syndrome, extremely rare, usually happens in very thin women that have had kids. It's like the pinching off of veins going to your kidney, which forces your kidney to try to create other veins, which basically makes like a mess, a spider web of veins in your body that's not good for you. Starts wrapping around things, creates problems. In the past, to solve this issue, you would have had to literally cut this poor woman from her neck all the way down to her pelvis, crack her ribs open, and do this complex surgery. They were able to do basically like a couple of small cuts on one side of her body and what amounts to like a C-section scar on the other side of her body. A robot arm goes in, removes her kidney from one side of her body and does a kidney transplant to healthy veins on the other side of the body, while simultaneously clearing out all of the things that have given her massive pain for years. Like, just the idea that that's possible is mind-blowing. And her recovery's been so stellar that the day after she was already walking around. Like, kidneys functioning, everything's good to go. So for those of you that know, thanks so much for the nice words. But I just want to say, like, science is awesome. The second reason I bring this up is because I have an audience, and my wife has gone through massive pain and issues for years. 4 years. She is super tough. She's not a person that complains. Like, 100%, if we both had the same exact flu, I would be the one whining and moaning, and she would be the one just kind of dealing with it and pushing on. She told doctors for years that she had issues, that she had pain on the left side of her body, that she had pain in her legs, that she was losing feeling in places. And it kind of got blown off for a long time. There were a handful of the many doctors that she spoke to that took it seriously and kept looking. And it's not a function of like, were the doctors men or women, because actually, some of her biggest proponents were male doctors. But what I've learned through my wife's journey is that there are a whole bunch of doctors that blow off this kind of complaint in women because they think people are just complaining, that it's not real pain, that maybe it's period pain, that maybe it's, things that, can just get shuffled along to someone else. And so, as my wife had this very rare condition and had to have this very rare surgery, she's in groups with other people that have like chronic pain, chronic issues, and the story is always the same. Doctors blow it off, and the patients are made to feel bad about complaining, and so they don't for a while. Then the pain gets worse, and then they bring it up again, and once again doctors kind of push them down. And so, I want to bring this up, one, for doctors that might be watching, to just take this stuff more seriously. But more importantly, if you are a person, and in particular women, that have, chronic pain issues, major issues, it's going to be your fight. You're not going to, unless you're very lucky, you're not going to find that doctor right off the bat that takes it seriously. Like, they are in the business now, because of the way our health system is set up, of solving the problem as quickly as possible and moving on. And so, just here to support all of you out there that have these issues, and once again to give major props to the scientists that created all this stuff, from the medication, to the systems that were able to find the problem, to the freaking robot that was able to literally move a kidney from one side of the body to the other. It's mind-blowing stuff, and it's going to significantly have an impact on my family's well-being. But through the process of my wife going through this, I've seen so many other people that have gone through the same thing. So for those of you that have reached out and wished her the best, we appreciate it. She's doing great right now. She's tough. She's hoping to be back on the jiu-jitsu mats in 6 months or so. But to all of you out there, look out for yourselves and make sure that you're being heard. Super important. If my wife wasn't the huge pain in the ass that she is, she would still be dealing with this chronic pain, and people would still be telling her that she had no issue, and she had a very serious issue. So Hollywood and Matt are gonna take it from here. I'm going back to the hospital, but I just wanted to say that. Have a great weekend.
Tensions have been on the rise as Russia has been massing troops on the border of Ukraine by the tens of thousands. Western countries like the US and France expressed concern that Russia was about to kick off a crisis and issued unspecified warnings should anything happen. However, this week, Russia ordered its troops back to base, along with some 40 warships. This came as a huge relief, especially right before Putin is set to attend a UN meeting in the near future. The 7-year Russo-Ukrainian war has been relatively calm this previous year, but it seems that Putin can't sit still for long. In response, the Ukraine has prepared a trench network so complex that even they can't figure it out. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has asked Putin to meet with him and discuss the weather, favorite soccer teams, and that near war that almost happened. Both sides are standing down, and the world is pleased to see that both Ukraine and the Kremlin weren't rushing to start a major conflict.
Our good friend and Putin opposition politician Alexei Navalny said in a statement this week that he will be ending his hunger strike that he started 3 weeks ago. Doctors who are attending to the 44-year-old say that in his current condition, he was at extreme risk for a heart attack or kidney failure. Navalny was imprisoned for leaving the country even though he was still on probation for a crime, or what's normally referred to as opposing a dictator. Just for some context, the only reason Alexei left Russia because he was mysteriously poisoned and he didn't think there was anyone in Russia he could trust. So he went to a medical facility in Germany. Turns out he was right, because the second he stepped foot back on Russian soil, he was arrested and thrown in jail. Alexei has been starving himself for 3 weeks in order to inspire confidence in his supporters, as well as give a nice middle finger to Putin. Unfortunately, Putin is one of the coldest motherfuckers out there, and he gave absolutely zero shits. I can't imagine ending his hunger strike is going to be that rewarding. I mean, you get to eat, but what do they have over there? Gruel? Gruel sandwiches? Every time I see Russian food, it's great. Look, I know you're not looking forward to it, but there's not going to be a basket of Red Lobster rolls waiting for you. Best case scenario, gruel. Worst case scenario, gruel with nerve agent. We're hoping for you, Novel Dog, but it's looking grim. Even if he gets some food, he is still stuck in prison, opposing the leader of the country who's making sure you stay in jail and he stays in power. When Putin found out about Alexei's decision to start eating again, he was quoted as saying, "Oh, he thinks he has no choice. No soup for you."
Navigation is important. In the Army world, land navigation is typically for getting from one point to the next. If it doesn't work out with the old-fashioned map and protractor, you can pull out your pocket-sized supercomputer and use Google Maps. I would imagine that navigation at sea is much more difficult, so it would pay to be an expert. Someone clearly lied on their resume, as an Indonesian submarine has disappeared nearly 60 miles off the coast of Bali. Apparently they were conducting a drill, but failed to report back after being given permission to dive down into deeper waters. The submarine was a new prototype Typhoon-class sub with a state-of-the-art Caterpillar drive that would allow the sub to run on silent propulsion by displacing the water. Sources say that even sonar would have trouble picking up the sub's movement, and it would probably sound more like a seismic anomaly. A small oil spill was found near one of the suspected locations, pointing to a damaged fuel tank or possibly a message from the crew. What's worse is that Indonesia is running out of time to find the sub before it runs out of oxygen. As of yesterday, the 53 missing crew on board had 69 hours worth of oxygen left. The rescue team currently consists of 6 warships, 1 helicopter, 400 people, James Earl Jones, Scott Glenn, and Alec Baldwin.
In a huge leap for the technology of our time, an instrument on NASA's Perseverance rover has made oxygen from Mars' carbon-based atmosphere. This is the second successful demonstration of the rover this week, as they also flew a mini helicopter on Monday. The oxygen generator is about the size of a toaster and made enough oxygen for a single astronaut to breathe for 10 minutes. Imagine what a house-sized generator could produce. NASA is thinking for future missions that astronauts would take this oxygen toaster called Moxie with them rather than try to carry all the oxygen needed for the trip. This would allow for longer missions and a lighter carrier load. Moxie is able to strip oxygen atoms from the atmosphere and then pump the carbon monoxide waste back out. We are getting so close to Star Trek levels of science, which just means we'll never have lightsabers.
The Derek Chauvin trial came to a close this week with much anticipation. The National Guard was deployed in some areas ahead of time, and businesses were boarded up in the event that the results were anything but a guilty verdict on all counts. After a trial fraught with inconsistencies, jurors deliberated on Chauvin's sentencing, who is facing second-degree unintentional murder, third-degree murder, and second-degree manslaughter. The jurors deliberated for more than 10 hours over 2 days before finally delivering the verdict. Guilty on all 3 counts. The maximum sentence Chauvin could receive is a combined 75 years in prison for all 3 counts. We'll find that out in 8 weeks. The verdict has been touted as a victory for justice, and even President Biden has made remarks saying this could be a giant step forward in the march towards justice in America. Nancy Pelosi herself even slithered out of the Capitol building to give the most tone-deaf, detached speeches about the trial, thanking George Floyd for sacrificing his life. He didn't sacrifice his life, you unhinged idiot. He was killed. No rioting occurred, as would-be rioters feel they got what they wanted. However, controversy still looms. During the trial, Democrat Representative Maxine Waters called for protesters to get more confrontational if the verdict didn't go their way, a statement which has unsurprisingly gone unreported, but which did not go unnoticed by the presiding judge. The judge remarked to the defense that the entire sentence could be appealed based on political intimidation of the jurors. Right now, it looks like Chauvin and his legal team will do just that. So while the initial fight has been claimed a victory, there's a rematch on the horizon, and who the hell knows what happens then. Brace yourselves for more of this shit show in the future.
Diarrhea-giving giant Taco Bell has decided to recently jump on the green train bandwagon and start finding ways to reduce the amount of waste they produce. Instead of just changing their ingredients so we could save millions of trees into becoming toilet paper, they are partnering with TerraCycle to make their sauce packet even more environmentally friendly. Currently, there isn't a plan of how this company is going to help Taco Bell, but there are plans. That is very 2021. We promise we're doing it. We don't know what it is, but just trust us. TerraCycle has started gathering old Taco Bell sauce packets and seeing how they can reuse that material for more sauce packets. But Taco Bell isn't the first company to try and become more green. Recently, Burger King has partnered with universities to try and get cows to stop farting as much. No bullshit. Large chain restaurants are some of the largest producers of waste in the world, and as many countries start to jump on the global warming is bad train, you can expect to see an uptick in restaurant chains doing the right thing, or appealing to people's nature in the times not to get canceled. Last year, Taco Bell ditched its popular Mexican pizza because its packaging created 7 million pounds of paperboard every year. I never had that pizza, but I'm not mad that it's gone. I feel like this was one drunk Saturday night decision my stomach and toilet would never be able to come back from. Taco Bell is hoping that by 2024, all of the packaging they use throughout their 7,000 global locations will be 100% recyclable or reusable. I appreciate you, Taco Bell. Going green is hard, especially when you've been making people go brown for so long.
Peanut butter and jelly, pasta and meatballs, sex and garlic bread, some of the greatest combinations ever known to man. This week, marijuana and cupcakes have quickly scaled that list as authorities in Greece found 4 tons of weed inside an industrial cupcake machine. Wow, this is a huge win for the war on drugs. Greece's Financial Crime Squad said that the information from the United States Drug Enforcement Agency is what helped them locate the ship, making us the biggest narcs on the planet. But we enjoy it so much that we will help other countries throw time and money down the drain. The street value of the marijuana was around 33 million euros, or 64 American dollars. The real loss comes to all the fast food chains in Greece who are poised to make millions of all those people smoking up and getting the munchies. The drugs have been confiscated, and the investigation into the ship's captains and owners is ongoing. They're lucky this isn't the Philippines, where they're just killed on sight and have drugs planted on you by the cops. Even though this doesn't make a dent in the world of drugs, at least people have something to do.
About 50 years ago, NASA sent the Apollo 14 rocket and crew to the moon. This was the third crewed mission to the moon, but this time, NASA packed a little extra 500 tree seeds. When the astronauts got to the moon, they planted the trees, and after 50 years of growing on the dark, oxygenless rock, NASA wants to go back and get them. Just kidding. It's a way less cool way than that. Scientists at NASA sent the seeds into space to see if they would have changed how they germinate and grow on Earth. The trees, known as moon trees, were planted all over the world by the Forest Service. One tiny mistake the Forest Service made when planting these trees was not actually keeping track of where they planted them. So now NASA, instead of exploring the vastness of space, they'll be exploring the boring rural farms and English cobblestone roads for these 500 trees. I feel like the statement, "You had one job," really rings true here. Step 1, plant trees. Step 2, go home. So far, NASA has tracked down just over 10% of the moon trees, and the Royal Astronomical Society in the UK said that there could be at least 15 moon trees throughout the United Kingdom. The biggest problem with finding these trees is they look like normally rooted to the ground waiting for some college dude to sit under it and terribly play guitar trees. There isn't a real way to tell these trees apart unless you were the one who planted them, and even then, I planted like 10 trees in school as a kid. I couldn't point them out compared to any other tree. The crew of Apollo 14 were also allowed to bring a handful of personal items on the trip. Astronaut Alan Shepard packed golf balls so he could be the first person to golf on the moon, which is the biggest flex I have ever seen. How could you ever top that story? "Dad, I scored the winning touchdown." "Oh, really, son? Well, you did that on this oxygen-rich planet. Try and do it on the moon, pussy." "Hey, NASA, let's just take this as an L and move on. You're on Mars making oxygen now." I think I can speak for most people
What are you
when
doing
I
to
say,
my motherfucker?
I think I can speak for most people when I say, we will be okay if you forget about the moon trees.
This week, police were called to a domestic disturbance at a foster home where 16-year-old Micaiah Bryant was in an altercation with 2 other women over house cleaning. According to the report, one of the ladies called police when Bryant became violent and out of control. When the police arrived, the body camera footage shows Bryant attacking another woman with a knife in plain view in her hand. The officer yelled for her to put down the knife and then fired 4 shots as Bryant apparently appeared to be swinging the knife at the other woman. Tragic, yes, but also pretty cut and dry. If you ask most people being attacked with a knife, they'll tell you, please shoot the person attacking them with the knife so they don't die by being stabbed by an angry person with a knife. Right? But following this shooting where the officer intervened in an attempt to save someone's life, there has been a public outpour mourning for Bryant and praising her like she's some kind of lost hero. LeBron James tweeted a picture of the officer who shot Bryant with the text saying, "You're next." He later deleted it, saying he didn't want it being used to spread hate. It was meant to address the need for accountability in this country. The irony of him using the word accountability while shirking accountability for his tweet was not lost on any of us. But cancel culture doesn't like to attack the left, so that'll be the end of that. But that's just a prominent example of the public reaction to this shooting. Facts and evidence aren't even being considered on the race to who can make this the most emotionally incendiary story of the day. These people see the death of a 16-year-old girl as a convenient follow-up to the George Floyd trial to keep the hate train going. It's messed up, and it's where we're at right now with the loudest and sneakiest in this country, and it needs to be called out for its bullshit.
The Democrats have had recent success in moving bills through the House where they are enjoying a small majority. Most recently, however, a bill passed with bipartisan support geared towards curbing hate crimes against Asians, which have been occurring much more frequently lately and have gained national attention. The other bill approves D.C. statehood to become the 51st state. This bill is widely believed to be crushed in the Senate because it's dumb, which raises the conversation of tactics in killing harmful bills. The filibuster, the epic long play of drawing out debates and lobbying instructions to draw out the time with procedural motions. This tactic could mean the end for many of the Democrats' coveted bills, and they hate that. So a large contingency of the Democratic Party is currently discussing abolishing the filibuster. The likelihood of this happening is low, however, as even the Democrats warn that losing the filibuster would mean that they would be unable to use it when the GOP retakes control. The best part of this whole back and forth is that all politicians are running around harumping and saying filibuster a whole bunch. Filibuster! Hurl! Filibuster! Hurl! Filibuster!
And finally, in Florida news, a pack of wild Floridians stepped up to face Florida in the brawl of a lifetime. Or just the brawl of the weekend. Or like probably the brawl of the half hour. Florida's wild. A video was taken by a random Floridian that showed a mother and daughter getting off a Ferris wheel. The child was screaming or crying, and the mother was having some words with the ride operator. Words like, "F you, you stupid mother piece of shit." Her words, not mine. The woman then proceeded to get close to the ride operator, waving her hands in front of him. It was at this point that the underpaid, hungover, probably slightly racist, early 40s ride operator decided he had had enough. And he pushed Florida woman and her child, which turns out was a terrible idea. No matter what side of the right or wrong you're on, hitting a woman is going to trigger some feelings. Mainly anger. After the woman was pushed, a group of wild Floridians appeared, quickly jumping on the ride attendant and beating the shit out of him. Even the woman who got pushed got some licks in, forgetting about her daughter who had fallen into the space between the steps of the ride. Because priorities. The carnival that this took place at was the first to take place since COVID, so you can really tell people saved up their energy and their hatred of their families so they could use that energy to beat the shit out of fare operators. It looks like the world isn't ready for a post-quarantine Florida just yet, but as huge fans of Florida Man, we here at Ranger Up wish you the best of luck in your insane future, Florida people, and stay classy. And with that, I'm Matt Finney.
And I'm still not Nick Palmisano.
And this is the Bad News Network. Our news is at least as bad as the news you're getting already, and if there's oxygen on Mars now, the next thing we can totally expect is a Starbucks. As always, you can use code BNN for 25% off at Ranger Up on checkout. And of course, check out our OnlyFans at onlyfans.com/NickandMatt for quality content. And all tips will be treated as donations, and we'll be giving those tips to charities. Charities of our choosing, charities of your choosing. So let us know what charities that you think deserve our tips. Have a great weekend, everybody.